Hey, well, welcome back. Welcome back, yes. It is my delight to be part three of this tribute to Reverend Johnnie. We have been just sharing the joy of her legacy, her life, and her birthday across the world, actually. I am part three of the celebration that began on Tuesday with the wonderful Vonda Guzman. Life is So Beautiful, Blog Talk Radio. And Vonda on her show shared her experiences, her life in knowing the Reverend Johnnie. It was a delightful call and brought in many, many, many memories of this wonderful, divine, inspired teacher. Our second part was today, this morning, the Love Journey. It was an awesome show. Our host, Reverend Janine Ann Ingram. And I'm going to call her that. This is the second time today I've heard that, Reverend Janine Ann Ingram. She delighted us with memories. She had music. She had information about the life of the Reverend Johnnie Colemon and allowed people to call in and share their experiences. I mean, there were tears rolling. I could just see them. I was feeling the joy of discussing this great woman's life. And having heard so much about what she did, overall, I wanted to talk about her book, It Works If You Work It. I guess all of you who have been on the call with Cider Enterprise know that I love books. I love books that feature overcomers, people who can come back and tell you about their experiences with love. And who better than Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon to do this? This woman was awesome in her own right. But this particular book came at a time, I think, that was more than a little overdue for my people. And I say my people because those of us who did not want to learn anything more, we were churched up, churched out, and not living the good that God had for us. And we met this woman who if you don't understand, if you don't know, she gave us almost a step-by-step guide to living a better life. And that was her wish for us, that we all have a better life. This particular work, It Works If You Work It, is actually a collection of lessons that she taught from the pulpit, not only at Christ Universal Temple, but as she traveled the world. And we had the honor of having them transcribed by Rosalie Jackson. I was searching earlier today trying to find out what's the copyright on this book. I know I got mine, I think, in the early 80s or maybe 70s, and had a class where we were studying, but little did I know that these were sermons that she had put together in this book. So this particular collection of booklets, there are 5 of them. I've carried with them. Copies are old. They've got yellow markings everywhere. And I go back to them. On this day, her birthday, in honor of her, I wanted to just review personally, am I doing this stuff? I learned those principles and practices, but am I doing it? Because that was her whole goal, to teach us how to live this better life. And she was an example of that in every walk that I saw her in. And I was a participant, a student, a church member for years, for a couple decades almost. And I would leave town, come back, but I always came back to John because she represented liberation for me in thinking about church for me as a woman and then as a black woman. This queen strutted the earth, and she would just be so sharp all the time. That would catch my attention along with her height. But when she spoke, it was like that mother really speaking to you, very simplistic, easy to understand, and she would work with you until she could see that you pretty much had what she was trying to convey to you. She made her lessons very individualized, so she didn't just throw some doctrine or some words at you. She had people, the teachers, who worked to help us better understand these principles. They were thorough. And I mean, she just laid it out in these 5 booklets in a way that someone not even knowing about a better life, a different kind of thinking, a God of possibilities, a God who is just everything we are. She was a phenomenon at her time, and her work continues even though Reverend Johnnie has been gone almost, I guess, 2 years. They say 2014. I'm like, it was just yesterday. But her presence lives on forever. And this particular work, I wanted to start because it was so fundamental. In chapter 1, part 1, well, let me back up a bit. In the 5 parts, there is so much material that I've decided I would be able to do all 5 parts. And so I'm going to focus on part 1, and if we have time, we will focus on part 5. Part 1 is just giving us the understanding of our divine inheritance. Could someone mute their phone? I'm hearing a phone ring somewhere. *6 your phone, please. In part 1, she's asking us to start thinking different, to open our mind, and to claim our divine inheritance. And I can recall she's had a statement that set the city of Chicago and obviously the whole world on fire because she told us it is a sin to be poor. Well, the church that I had come from did not speak in that language. And certainly, if you thought money was everything, you were really on the wrong track. You were not prosperous in thinking about money openly. But Johnnie did. Her part 2, she takes you into really thinking about what does it require to be prosperous in your thinking. What are some of the things you have to do and the desire to be prosperous? That particular booklet, the motivator, it goes through and kind of helps share with us what you need to have this prosperous mindset. And I'm just briefly share that there decide, tithing, to dream or imagine, plant good seeds, and expect what you want. You have to speak that. And in this particular booklet, she concludes pretty much with you got to learn to stand on your own big spiritual feet. You got all this stuff she's telling us is nothing if we do not open our mind and do the work. In part 3, she discusses, she talks about preparing to prosper. And so there's a breakdown of some keys that are required for you to live, to be prosperous, to have prosperity. And it's very thorough. So I encourage you to get these booklets for yourself so that you can explore them. And in part 5, the last part that I want to really get into, if we have time, is the prayer. Prayer is so essential to our being. It's just the undergirding, the substance that we talk about God is made out of. This is where we make the connection in prayer. And it's just a divine piece of, telling us how to have effective prayer, that we can get up off our knees and expect good from God. So I'd like to start with part 1 because there was so much good stuff in there. And foremost, that radical thought at that time, Chicago was coming out when I was getting this information, the riots and all this had happened. Just a lot of stuff was burned down. We looked like we were bombed out. People were accepting, well, this is the way it is. And here came Johnnie, and she talked about it's a sin to be poor. And she said we had to change our way of praying. Yes, we're church people. We all go to church where we pray. But what we've been doing is begging God. We were not accepting the fact that we are, divine entities. We are one. We talk about being one with God. And yet we see this separatism, the poor, those have, those that don't. And until you can began to open your mind and just conceive of this fact that we have a loving God, stand up and talk to this God that we serve. The ambulance passed by my house and sent goodwill to whoever it is going to serve. Johnnie talks about in this first booklet about seeking God first. For me, this was like opening the door to dispelling the idea that money was a bad thing to have. Because if that was what you were loving, money, it was a problem. But if you seek God first and recognize money is just part of the substance that God is. But He is everything. And He is the substance under everything that we may need. So in seeking Him first, you can get in your quietness to the place that He will fill that need, give you that idea, show you the way, bring that person. Things will change if you seek Him first. Another radical thought she brought to Chicago and the world at that time was, you got to stop that darn poverty talk. Yeah, it's a sin to be poor. But when you continuously surround yourself with other people and, video, TV, other things that say, hey, this is just how it is. You've got to move yourself away from these kind of things and thoughts that keep you from seeing the good that you want. You believe God is all. Well, say that. Be that. Don't just talk it while you're sitting on that church pew, and then walk right out of that place where you were praising God and it's another Sunday. I ain't got no this and I ain't got no that. Well, that is poverty talk. So we have, not just you, but me too, we have to begin to think about life far more abundantly because it comes from the Father who has everything. Talked about another big issue within my people, our race, and that is we don't want to learn. You have to be willing to try new things. If all of that religion and church and stuff that we had for so many years was not moving us as a people or individually anywhere, why not open your mind and try something different? Try some new thoughts. And really, when you do the work of thinking these positive things, thinking these things that you want, and thinking of abundance as opposed to there's not enough, and get that plenty in your head, it will evidence itself. But you have to be willing to do the work. And that is to try and move your thoughts, your actions, reactions, all of that to the good. In chapter 2, Johnnie went on to start not only putting out these points to us and showing us what we need to do in terms of opening our mind, she got into thought thing even more so to me. You got to expect to prosper. You got to believe what you're asking God for is doable. And the way to really express that, perhaps, she showed us, and it's a message age-old for my people, if you will, is that you got to use what you have. Don't be using nothing. Use everything. We keep thinking and believing on a rainy day, and sure enough, it's coming. It's coming. If you live every day like I got the best of what He gave me best to have on this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc., you can use it. Why should you go around looking as though, today is nothing special? He gave you life. He gave you breath. And it's on us to use what we have. You may not have a lot of money. Might have, like me, a lot of mouth. But He gave that to us for a reason. And you have to begin to, if you're thinking these thoughts that are good and doing the things that are right, then you will obviously be able to move forward in that. Using everything, because when you get it, something comes right in. You cannot hold it. And to get it, you got to release it. And know that the Father wants the best for you. And you get fearful like I do sometimes. Ooh, am I going to have enough? Is this going to be enough? No, first of all, the fear is not of God. Secondly, know that as your Father, He made you heir, and He wants only the best for you. These are thoughts that, were different for me at the time, and still I have to go back frequently in areas where I get distracted or there's a problem, a situation that I can't readily put my hands on. I have to go back to these truths. These things are real, but they're not anything if you don't use them, if you don't practice them, and if you don't believe. She's moving along, trying to help us, I think, as a people to see deservability here. You've got to feel worthy of being prosperous before you can be prosperous. Now, this is a lesson I am still getting over and over. Worthiness. I believe it at times, and then I fall back on, I'm short on this, and it's a practice. He said, if you stay up all night to get it, you do it. You keep doing the work. And knowing, tell yourself 1,000 times you're an heir. Sing the song that you need to. I love myself. Look in that mirror. Do your ho'oponopono. You are an heir. And you can feel that worthiness. Everybody around you expands too. I mean, they just want to be in your company. They're like, oh, wow, she got it. And when you evidence the will of the Father in you, that's the very best thing that you can do, because it's all good. We are truly one. I thought about a couple of points he had in there, and she was just talking about some mindsets that we maybe could change to help us get there sooner, of the worthiness, and that was the thought of being a servant of God. And your thinking is really in error when you think about I'm just a servant of God. Why is it an error? You've heard that all our lives. And it's because really you're not identifying yourself. You're not naming yourself correctly. We are the son child, or the heirs through Christ. Jesus came, but Christ is in Him, and He has already told us whatever He did, we will do this and far more. But only if we get that connection that we are heirs, deserving, and living that. You no longer have to beg God for anything. You just sit to your daddy, hey, Dad, I need, hey, Dad, I want, hey, Dad, I like. And He gives it to us because you know for a fact that He is the source. I'm going to continue on with this, and I'm doing this so that I can invite callers in conversation to help me understand their take on some of these statements from the book. But in chapter 4 of the part 1, again, she encourages us to get in the right state of mind. And she talks about, do you believe you can prosper? And if you do, you need to keep that picture evident in front of you. Your images of what that looks like for you, that I am prosperous. What are you wearing? What are you doing? Where are you at? Who are you with? What you eating? These are some of the things that Johnnie brought to us, and I know for a fact that there were classes on visioning, masterminding, where we would, take the time and intention of showing what we saw as prosperous people in ourselves. And it was just a wonderful thing for me. I think I'd have been in my 20s by then, and I was already loving everything that was good, rich, beautiful, fine, and I came from the projects. So but I always felt like anything that I wanted, I could have. And you know what? I did. I did have all those things because I believed that it was available to me. And so when she talks about getting that image, I had some very, very clear ones already in my head. And when I ran into Johnnie herself, looking so good, wearing them furs, like they say, in the summertime, because I got them, what else did I need other than to see it's doable? And finally, in chapter 5 of the first part, she talks about the substance of God. Through that power of naming in the right state of mind that we have, you can shape what you want. And she made it very clear and conscious idea for me and a lot of people I know that money is God's substance. You know, it's not separate at all. In her book, she gives a story about, how you can go to the faucet, etc. But if you don't turn that faucet on, you can stand there with that beautiful glass looking good and everything thirsty, da-da-da-da-da. But you must make the decision to turn the handle, to get what you want, already here for us. But we have to open our minds, believe it's possible, and move forward in thankfulness that it's already done. We are heirs. We are heirs. So I am going to, if I may, open the call up for some comments on part 1 a bit early because, there were just so many important parts, and I'm ready to discuss them with somebody. So please, star 6 your phone and come in, if you will.
All right. I was just trying to wait and see if somebody else was on star 6.
Oh, no. They hear us in the background, and you're like, what? But girl, you want to join these babies?
Yes, yes, I am a Johnnie baby. I grew up in Christ Universal Temple. I grew up started out on the one when she was on 87 in State. And very young girl, very young girl. So I know you're here to talk about the books. I want to talk about all the great people I met there and all the things I learned there. But the one thing that stuck out for me that really speaks volume about this book is Johnnie really gave us a way to see ourselves as God, as the Christ consciousness, and understanding that we had the power to transform, transcend our world through ourselves, through our words, through our thoughts. I'm telling you, it was such a radical thought, and I was so excited at the end saying, oh, I can control my life? All I do is write it down, put it on the vision board, speak it. It was so exciting. But when I think about the book, it works if you work it. When I think about the first part of that book, I am prosperity. Prosperity is my divine right. That was part of it in part 1 that really stuck out. That I have a divine right. I am a divine heir. I have the right to be prosperous. So I remember sitting down thinking, what do I need to do to bring that prosperity into manifestation? What do I do? How do I take the invisible and bring it into the visible world? Because I already have everything I would ever require to be on earth. How do I bring and manifest that? And that's what that book really made me think about. Praying differently. I don't have to beg God, but how to affirm what I desire from God's promises. Because God gave us promises in the Bible. And she did no stories in that book. She tell you in Matthew 6:11, Matthew, ask and you shall receive. She goes through the whole, and even his promissory note, she calls this one the promissory note in Isaiah 65, that what God says, even when you pray, I will hear you. Even before you ask, I shall hear you and answer you. Even while you pray, I'm working it out. Oh, yeah. And she calls that God's promissory note. So, this book to me is one of the most phenomenal books you would ever want to read.
It is. And you know what I love so much with her explanation for traditional fundamentalist Christians, if you will. And she starts out talking about, Jesus is still our way shower. Jesus is the name of the man. Christ is the title. Christ is the principle. Jesus is the Christ. And Jesus, as our elder brother said, I am here to show you that it can be done. Jesus became the Christ. And we too can become the Christ when we get into the Christ consciousness. Now that was some deep stuff to me. Wait a minute, what are you saying? We believe Jesus came and we call him the way shower, but it was the Christ in him that made everything so possible that I am. That is within every man, woman, and child. That same Christ consciousness. And I thought that was, now that's some deep stuff, Johnnie. But I heard it when I read it,
That is deep stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because we get back to the heaven and the hell of stuff and the sinners and you're going to die and burn and, this was some radical stuff. It still remains, and it also still continues to be a divide for some people, those who do not want to open their minds to a different way, a new thought, if you will, on how Christ prevails within each of us.
Exactly. And, you have to think about that. That was very radical for the 50s and the 60s, 70s and the 80s. But especially in the 50s and 60s, you got to understand what was going on in the climate and culture of what was going on in our community. One, we had a big racist issues going on. Martin Luther King was coming back and forth from Chicago. Lots of things happening, and women were not in pulpit, and especially not black women were not standing up saying, well, I am the consciousness of Christ. I am a divine idea in the mind of God, with a thunderous voice, you know what I'm saying? And so for her to stand up and do that in such a long period of time, it speaks volumes to her courage.
It does. And, when I look at her influence, even in her transition, how many lives she affected. I mean, you and I are but two of the people who got a chance to hear these radical new thoughts, ways of being, to live our God life, to be an example for others to see, because we did it. It's like, and this was, like I said, very unheard of at the time. A woman wasn't leading it, and then to say things that traditional religions considered, blasphemous. What do you mean ain't no heaven and hell? Those kind of things. And it was just way, 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 way ahead of its time. But I look at it, too, it might have been in the past that all this stuff happened and it came back in our time. I am so grateful to be alive and have experienced, the magnitude of this woman and what she did for us. She used so many different ones together, and she kept saying, whatever your mind can conceive, I can achieve. I can remember those affirmations. I need an affirmation. What is that? I just like hearing them say it and everybody saying it together. But the power of it became such that we accomplished what we set that affirmation to do. So I personally began to, practice some of the things. I had a great imagination, but when Johnnie talked about expanding your mind and think big, I tell you, this little project girl, I went around the world. I saw the best. I just beheld the best. It was a glorious time because all I had to do was think about it and it seemed like it came about.
What you think about is what you bring about. All right now.
Oh, yeah, and I was getting away from them projects, from all the appearances of lack that were in front of me. And I'm grateful.
That I thought that we didn't really talk about, and we didn't even discuss, but the fact that now that we couldn't believe in Satan, we had to be responsible for our own actions. Because, the idea of Satan gives you the ability to say and blame the process of you on something else other than yourself.
Oh, yes. And isn't that much easier to do? Blame someone else. You don't have to be accountable or responsible.
Mm-hmm.
She brought that lesson home, baby. It's you. You have to do the work. You know, and I'm like, ooh. Yes. But gratefully, she provided tools, if you will, modalities and treatments. I'm like, I've never heard of this stuff. But the stuff was working, you know. And seeing, I just couldn't stay out of classes. I was always, let me go get another one. I was like, okay, just take 2 this term, Claudette. But it was a wealth of learning for me, and it was, like I said, radical ideas. And then the people who were a part of this. I had never met such a group of black people who were practicing. They talked it, they walked it. And my first guy into it looked like everybody had a mink coat and drove a big car. I like that.
Wait, at the Cadillac dealership, they should have gave her some money.
Oh, you know? But, you know, just joking aside, I think maybe Leon took care of all those car discounts and benefits she might have possibly needed. So, it was just a great thing to see. I can recall the many guests who came, and Johnnie would keep them on the message. It was not like they could just come in with any kind of conversation. No, no, no. The messages were the same importance and principle. Now, the presenter had different expressions of how he or she saw that. And it was a powerful way to experience so many different people practicing the presence. I'm like, what in the world is that? But
it's like Reverend Knight. I remember Reverend Knight coming into the place and standing room only. And I could see him. You ever see somebody who, as soon as they walk in a room, they change the molecules of how the room operates. The whole room will go in an uproar. As soon as he walked in the door, he'd throw that fur coat on the floor and walk it like it was a red carpet. Because that's what he thought about stuff, because he was the master of material things. He was the master of money. And that's why I fell in love. Right there in Christ Universal Temple with Reverend Ike Carter.
And Reverend Johnnie did that for me when she walked in the room. She changed the molecules of the place. I tell you, we snapped to it. Because we wanted every little bit that she had to give to us. And she gave so much to all who wanted to learn. She really did. She didn't, she wasn't a respecter of persons or personalities or pocketbooks, you know. Do you want to learn? Do you want to know? I can show you my way, what has worked for me and my practices. And it's just a beautiful thing. Speaking of Reverend Ike, I love the statement she encourages us to say to ourselves. My father is a billionaire. I am a millionaire. And he wants me to have the best. He wants me to travel first class. And you know what? I expect the best. I use my best. And I do this without guilt or regret. And she urges us to start using that right now, wherever you have and wherever you are. And I was like, ooh, great thing to say to ourselves and believe. He wants us to have the best.
Hello. Let's talk about the global presence she has, all the way from Africa to Trinidad to Bahamas. So, you know, we think about how she affected Chicago, but we don't really talk about it. That's why I chose the story this morning, because I wanted the people to hear how she affected the world, how she changed the world. All the way from Trinidad, Jamaica, California, Canada, you name it. She had a presence, and people understood who Dr. Johnnie Colemon was.
Oh, yeah. I thought I heard another caller in there trying to get in.
Yeah, okay.
Hi. Hello, everybody. This is Catherine. Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh, great. So.
This is Catherine Jackson.
Catherine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There was I remember when I met my father at the age of 19. My father lived in Chicago, and so I remember he taking me to Johnnie Colemon, to the church that was on 79. I'm not was 79th. I may have the street wrong though. Not where the big church is at now, but the first one. This was back in the around 19. I guess I'm telling my age, but I remember us going. He's taking me there when I would visit, and how many people were there, and at that, obviously from where I came back from Davenport, Iowa, there was no such thing as a woman preacher, and he would take me there, and then I would go to classes with him in the evening time, and I was impressed by Iowa girl, being impressed by being in Chicago, so I would remember us going in, introduced me to her and that piece and that, and I remember the part about my father always talked about. You might see me, I have a button that he gave me, and it's always talked about your attitude. And my father was still alive, a Baptist preacher, and even though we taught the difference about theology, my theology is different, but I like some of the principles that Dr. Coleman talked about. I like the idea about, the process of thinking about who you are and what you're about. I remember as faith thinkers, you don't accept negative opinions of others, and you don't accept the status quo, because by accepting the status quo means that you're not going to grow, you're not going to be Jesus help me, accepting the status quo would mean that you don't move to the next level, and that that whatever we think, that we always got to think bigger than what the next person. Just because someone made a car, there's somebody can make a car better than that, or if you made a dress, there's somebody can make a dress better than that. And I think that's where the reinforcement with my father as going there reinforces things to me, and so I think that was very wise to be able to say, the things that she did was very powerful, and I do agree that I agree about the impact that she made around the world, and it also reminds me of the 2 Corinthians, when it says, we walk by faith, not by sight. I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 5:7, and that's what she talked a lot about. So looking and believing that you have, and one of the new 2016 goals, and it ties into that things that you were talking about, and that is believing that you can have that, and the only way we do that, you're right. If I want a glass of water, I can stand by the faucet, but if I don't turn the faucet on, I'm not going to get the water. And so I think that's the same thing of 2016, just remembering being a faith thinker. I was thinking that she's talking about being a faith thinker. If you want it, you gotta not just think it, you gotta do it. Because I think I recall reading that it means that your thoughts, your truth is about yourself, about what God and what you're about. I should not allow someone else to define who I am and what I'm going to be. You might say, well, I'm going to get my PhD, and then I'll be Dr. Catherine Jackson, but that means that's still limiting myself. I'm going to be greater than that. So, but we have to teach ourselves that, and we have to say those affirmations. one of the writers that I like. Her name is Emily Towns, and she talks about womanist theology, and one of the things that she talks about, and I think it's not just for women, but it's for all of us, that we have to learn how, and I think it lies into what Dr. Coleman was talking about. We have to learn how to reconstruct a new way of thinking and a new way of doing things. If we've been told that we're never going to have it and we can't have it, we got to stop saying, yes, I can, and yes, I will, and yes, it's going to happen. It's not like I'm praying about it. I do believe in power of prayer, so I don't want to make it sound like we don't pray and we don't talk to our Heavenly Father. But I'm saying is that I believe that the same thing, that we walk by faith, we walk with our God's holding our hand, and we get up and we make moves, and we move action, prayer with action. You know, let's say faith without works is dead, and that's the same thing. And I think that the things that you were talking about and the power of this awesome woman has opened doors for so many of us. And I think one of the things that we have to learn is that regardless of what our theology may be or our philosophy may be, or some people say my opinions and all that we need to open our minds to be able to say, okay, if I don't take all of this, I can take some of this because it's work. Because when we look at the universe, there is diversity. There are different kinds of people around. We learn differently. We eat differently. Things work. Our bodies all operate the same. Blood flows to our body, but there's maybe creative ways in which that we can learn to help somebody else to do that, and that's what we have to be able to do. So I'm done talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And it just really, really, really gets back to expand your mind and think big. You know, we limit God when we just give him a certain prescription, because he's got plenty to spare and to share. There's no one way to convey love. So our religions, our differences are all unique. And so there is more. We just give ourselves over to seeking God first. We are able to think bigger. You know, there's a place for everyone. And in talking about her international influence outside of Chicago, I'm just going to start to make it count. Her teachings, I think maybe they were well received in other places before Chicago really got behind their compilation as a body of work. I know that USBL, the Universal Foundation for Better Living, took over the copywriting of this in 2006, according to my information. And so this work had been going on and revised, and she tells us in the 5 booklets, okay, I said this in the first booklet, or the second booklet, or the third booklet. But these are all messages that need repeating, they need expression in every way that we can. And I'm just grateful that we can see that not only here, but abroad. Janine, you were going to share a couple of the international tributes that you know about with us, or places that the ministry has gone, if you will.
We know we have in Trinidad, in Jamaica, because, you know, and also Bahamas, Canada, and Africa. And, you know, those are the international, but we also have a lot of places in the States. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, California, Baltimore in the house. One God, one thought. You know, our very own. We call them our sisters because they come on our line every day. So we have to honor them. Because a lot of the reverends from One God, One Thought are on there. Nigel J. Brown, Reverend Judith Hopma, Reverend Deborah Rick. I call it, I'm just playing. But you know, really? Harvey Daly is from One God, One Thought. Arlene Cahet is from One God, One Thought. You know, Zakia, Reverend Z. Now, she is really a reverend. Reverend Zakia is One God, One Thought.
Oh, yeah.
That's their church. That's their church. That's the church they belong to. And the church that Rosa goes to, Reverend Sylvia's church in Washington, D.C. So, you know, she has a big presence with the Universal Foundation for Better Living, and it's only, as I hear Reverend Makita, Sheila, I see it's only going to get bigger, better, and more profound, because people are really starting to see that I don't have to depend on anything but other than the presence that lives inside of me. I can call it forth. I don't have to be depressed, because depression, I can give myself permission not to be depressed. I can give myself permission not to be in poverty. I can choose to live my life with just a different thought, shift in my thoughts. And I see that presence is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just like to say with the Love Journey, with the Cider Enterprises Book Club, we're Johnny Coleman babies, and so I know that I am because of her. I would not say, I could never say that the Love Journey would have existed if I had not met Dr. Johnnie Coleman. If I had not grown up in that church, if I had not got those principles, the Love Journey would not look what it looks like today. We have a presence all over the world, too. I mean, look, we have people calling in from Germany, Paris. We have people in Japan. We have people in Greece calling in every day to listen to what the Love Journey has to say, and people from all over the world. And it's simply because she planted a seed. And then when she planted that seed, I watered it and nursed it. Because remember, it only works if you work it. The word says you have to be a doer of the word, not a hearer, a doer. Just like Catherine was saying, Reverend Catherine Jackson, you've got to be a doer of the word. And so being a doer of the word planted seed and allowed us to have the space to say, without walls, and say, hey, I am all that God is, and recognizing our own ability to create and magnify and manifest what it is we desire in our life. So I just really love the fact that you're really opening up this conversation with this book. Because one of the things that in chapter 2 is, and I don't know if it's in the, because I got those pamphlets, but I actually have the book, and it's in the chapter is called Where Faith Is, Facts Don't Matter. Faith is, facts don't matter.
Those appearances. Yes. I tell you, Reverend Johnnie, she taught that. If you believe, if you know, it can be so. And you don't have to deal with what's right in front of your face. She talks, I love her stories about her big pocketbook. You take that empty pocketbook and you see it filled with the substance of God, money that you can use and get the things that you desire and need for your life, And she really, really works that. Going back over she was talking about, how people think they don't deserve it, but she unabashedly, unapologetically says, I worked for mine. He gave me this to do, and my greatest joy is to share it with you. She loved her work. And out here today, I'm telling you, the work extends itself. You talk about the Love Journey. There's probably a couple 100,000 stories that can go with the influence. But I know that her teachings in my life has influenced my vision. I want to build sisters from the place of love and action, an opulent, abundant waterfront resort in tribute to African American women right here in Chicago. And I just think about all the lessons she gave us on how to get that money, how to keep things in order, how to teach, how to spread the word, and get support for what you're doing as long as you keep God first. And her lessons, I just see myself going through that because Johnnie had a very big life, if you will. She didn't just one day jump out and become a world leader. She was born that way, but in learning to be that and experiencing how that was for her, she a lot of people in just the day-to-day way that she conducted business, how she grew more believers, if you will, to understand the bigness of God and that they, too, had a right to everything that God has.
Yes.
Yeah, she is. And I just think about our continuing her legacy, whether it be in a conference call or on the TV or whatever is great for our children to know. Even though there's a different mindset about poverty, we feel we have no justice. We feel this and that about ourselves, but these same principles can be applied to overcome every feeling of lack, that you don't have enough, that you're not good enough, that it's not your time. Not true. You have to know the prospering power of God for yourself. And it takes the company of others to learn maybe some new things or ways of doing things, but it will take that personal introspection that you will do to get to know that this is God and not that church or that study or those friends. This is real, what you have gotten from Him, an answer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So what's
interesting about that whole process too is that we learned something different than we learned when I was growing up in the traditional church. I learned how to live God every day, not just on Sunday. And that was a really, really radical for me, because to me it seemed like we would go to church on Sunday, we would stay there all day, eat fried chicken, go back to night, and then, it was a process, but you didn't see any principles living it out, you know what I'm saying, throughout the week. And that was the one thing that I really loved, was that I learned when I was in a situation how to remove myself from it, how I didn't have to be in fear of it. I could meditate, I could affirm, I could pray, and I didn't have to pray the supplication kind of prayer, but the kind of prayer that says, I affirm my right, because it does give us, God does give us promises in the Bible. Deuteronomy 8:18. It is He that gives thee the power to give wealth. In Timothy, he said, it is He that gives richly all things. And we could go on and on. Ask. In James 1:4, you have not because you ask not. So we could go through the Bible and see the promises that God gave us. But so many times growing up, all I saw was the wrath and the pain and the suffering. I'm like, if that's the kind of God I'm going to serve, I don't want none of that kind of God. I literally told God at 16, 15, when I was young. And one day I told God, I said, I'm going to tell you this. I love you and I'm going to always love you, but I ain't going to be able to do this one, God. So I'm going to go ahead and doom myself to hell. But can you keep me protected while I'm here? That's what I told God, because I ain't going to be able to do this, so you might as well put me in hell right now. I ain't going to be able to do it.
Oh, yeah. I know. I came with a similar feeling that women, we were just always wrong. We could never be right or in charge or have a thought without a man's sanction. And a lot of times this stuff was just strictly patriarchal. We just controlled it. Didn't make sense. But that's just what we've always done, and we're going to continue this. And so when I found Johnnie, it was like, it was more than a breath of air. I mean, it was just a whole new way of thinking, of being, of seeing myself. And I love that church. I love that woman for her teachings and all of the instructors and examples that were provided for us. Didn't get into that prayer aspect, which was such a big thing with Johnnie. I can remember when the prayer tower and all this came in, and then with the burning bowl, they would put all those requests to God into this, and they would be prayed over all year. The 24-hour prayer ministry was vital, and these women in that group, I don't know, maybe there were some men, but I didn't know of any men who were on that prayer line for Christ Universal Temple. And it was just an non-ceasing opening for anyone who would call for prayer. Now that was a huge possibility, if you will, just to make 24 hours the ability for black folks to have prayer. we heard of, Unity and some other big churches of that time. You could call in, but it was a different kind of prayer that she offered, and it was always effective prayer. You are, as an heir, to believe that you have an answer in me. And it just led you. You didn't have to get into how wrong it was, how sick anybody was, or whatever. It was agape kind of love where it was just God is for you. And here is something, they would give you affirmations during that time to keep you encouraged and uplifted. But I thought it was so wonderful, having seen all the crying and maybe begging God, and you'd have to go to the pastor and he'd have to put hands on you to hear your prayer. You might have altar call and we praying again, and we begging. So this was a new way for me to appreciate the power of just prayer, just thankfulness to God, to give it to Him, to release and surrender whatever your troubles or concerns may be. He's got you.
Wow, that was beautiful. That was really beautiful, the way you put that.
Oh.
Made me think about the one thing that I took away was this. God can do no more for you than what God can do through you. And that's one thing that He always taught us. God can do no more for you than what God can do through you.
Yeah, because we do come here fully clothed with everything we need. We just have to decide how we're going to use it, when we're going to use it, where we're going to use it, and who we're going to use it with. And we can be assured of success in our thoughts and actions, reactions, and feelings if we keep our minds stayed on the good of God. So in closing, I'd like to entertain one more question, if there is one out there, about how Johnnie impacted or affected your life. Or one discussion, not a question. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? This is, my name is Shirley Vivian's boy. Hi, Claudette. How are you? Girl, I feel like a newborn baby right now in this stuff here. I am so excited and so just, I can't even explain it. I haven't even read the book. I've been on the line listening. And it has made me feel, you know how you walk through life and you're searching and you ain't satisfied because this ain't right. Something ain't right. This is what I've been going through. And I'm going to get this book tomorrow.
Well, you can get this book and open it every
You're going to have to give me a list of all of them because I'm going to get started. I'm in a mission. I'm in Carthage, Mississippi. We moved here I moved here in 89. Yes, girl, yes. My parents followed me in 91. My dad passed in 2012. My husband passed in 2005. My kids are still up there. And I've been in search. I've felt like that I was not in the right place. You know what I'm talking about? I've just been going to church after church after church, and I went to Jehovah's Witnesses, and I went to this, and I went to Sanctified Church, and I just haven't been able to find what I was looking for, and I'm sitting up here reading today. I was reading because I got a lot going on in my life. You know, I have a son up there in Cook County Jail, incarcerated. And I've been trying to meet his needs and meet my needs, and there's just so much going on anyway.
You need this book right away, Shirley. I am
yes.
so to from you, but it works.
Girl.
Indeed.
You just don't know.
It'll be a life-changing way for you.
This little talk that you've had so far, I've been feeling swamped mentally. I've been feeling full and aggravated and all of this stuff, today, and I went to the doctor today, and I go to a doctor here in Carthage where we live at now. And I was just talking to the doctor, and I just broke down and started crying. He told me, he said, you're going to have to find you an outlet. he said, I think different from everybody. I'm always the person that's helping and running and giving and gave and giving and gave until I'm gave out. I'm give out.
Shirley,
And, whew,
if I may, and
go ahead.
You to please inbox. I think you saw this on Facebook, Cider Enterprises, or Claudette.
Yes.
On Facebook.
Yes.
Please being your telephone number. If you're looking at the article, it will be a link in there that will direct you right to the Universal Foundation of Better Living, where you can purchase this collection. I don't even think it's 5 books. My stuff is so old, it came in 5 parts. But I think they've condensed it and combined it all into one book. But it is certainly a beginning, and I would love to hear from you. Send me that telephone number so that we can talk. This is life-changing.
Yes.
I do thank the Lord for having all of us in celebration, in tribute to the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon. It does work if you work it. And I invite you to come back on March 17th to our next Cider Enterprises Book Club conference call. And I thank everyone on this line for joining us tonight. I believe Reverend Johnnie be pleased. We love her. We keep her. We just really move forward in the light of her works and teachings to us. So to all, good night and thank you.
And to all, good night. Good night. Thank you.